When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching The Meta Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Meta Show. Today is Saturday, December the 18th, 2021. I'm Brisker Ball. I'm joined alongside the Matani. As you can see, it's Christmassy. It's snowy out today. There's snow everywhere. There's snow on the show. There's snow in the background. There's snow in fucking space. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And here we are live in front of one of the Winter Nexus sites. I hope you guys have gone out there and had some fun in there. Hi, boss. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning to you. Good afternoon. And now, it's funny that there's all the snow in space because we haven't had snow in Wisconsin very much. Earlier in the week, a little global warming story for you. Like 2 or 3 days ago, here, like December 15th in Wisconsin, which is like where all the Norwegians in the United States live, because it's sort of, it's the land of ice vampires. And it was 63 degrees in freedom units, which is something in Celsius units that is a lot more than it's supposed to be. I was able to take my t-shirt off. I literally just to feel the warm wind on my skin because I could. And then there was an extreme wind event, and we spent the next evening hiding in the basement, and then it dropped like 40 degrees, but there's still no snow here. But it's nice to see it in space. So here we are. We've got a great show today, guys. If you've never been with us for a year-end roundup, we are taking the next 2 weekends off because it's Christmas and New Year's. Go party, go have a life. And at the end of each year, we get together and we kvetch, and we mock, and we laugh, and we enjoy. So we have Frank is going to be visiting us. I can't wait. We have the best stories that we've done for you this year. And it's been a while since we've gotten a chance to do this. So if you are in PISP, I suggest that you run for cover because we're going to be making fun of you. And we know a lot of you are still in PISP because just before the show,
hey,
so we're going to get into this in a bit, but I just want to let people know just before the show, Tess decided to leave the zone of rot because we made fun of them about it last week. And then they said, we're going to do a move up just before Christmas. And the moment that they jumped into the zone of death, Initiative and the rest of the Imperium, slightly, goons are slow, but Init was there. We got some kills. We got some fun. And lo and behold, all of PISP proceeded to form up to try to defend and save them, proving once again that the blue donut still exists and that the leaders of PISP are still a bunch of hypocritical pieces of shit. So if you're wondering which direction the mockery is going to be flowing in for this evening's show, like with most of 2021, the mockery is going to be flowing where it is deserved, in the direction of Elfboy, Villy, Gobbins, Piggles, the entire cast of miscreants who really deserve all of the top 10s we have today. So, Brisk, let's get stuck in.
All right,
and thank you for the hype train, by the way. Please like and subscribe. Throw money at the screen.
Throw money at the screen. We like it when you throw money at us.
That's good.
All right, so a couple of things to get out of the way. Then we're going to do the brief nullsec power hour talking about the test deployment. And then we're going to get straight into the top 10 biggest EVE stories of 2021. And then we will get Frank in here, and he will do the top 10 dumbest shit that happened in EVE in 2021. That one I think you guys are going to enjoy quite a bit. So anyway,
it's so good.
So first of all, I've been asked, Life Shifter asked me to remind you guys, if you are not able to watch the show live and you're watching it on the VOD, keep in mind you have multiple options to watch the show after the show airs. First, you can always watch the Twitch video on demand. It goes up immediately after the show. The YouTube version goes up on Monday. We have to wait 24 hours. That's Twitch rules. The YouTube version goes up on Monday, but the podcast is available not only on Apple Music, we have just got the podcast on Spotify. So if you're interested in listening without having to stare at the gorgeous faces of myself and the Matani, if you just want to drive it in your car and you don't want to get distracted and run off the road, you can listen to the podcast. So check that out. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. In both places, probably the two places you're listening to podcasts. Lord, just look for the Meta Show. We are on there. We will be happy to get you guys to listen in any way that you can. Thank you. I don't need that right now, but thank you, my son. I have a new microphone coming today. It is here, but I can't obviously use it on the show. We'll use it next time on the show.
That's good, though.
But I do appreciate him bringing it in here. Second thing, happy birthday to our dear friend Wibla. It is his birthday today. I know the guys in Bad Posters are going to be partying it up, and I want to make sure that they get a chance to say hi to all those folks out there. Wibla, happy birthday. We appreciate you. Thank you for doing everything you do, except when you do the opt-all pings. That's when we all hate you, but we love you the minute that you're done. So, last thing, obviously, Merry Christmas. Saturday is Christmas. As Mitten said, the week after is New Year's. So this is the last show in 2021. And I love the fact that we get to start the show out with a bang with the Nullsec Power Hour to talk about test deployment. So the big question has been, where is test going? What are they going to do? They announced they were going to do a deployment during the town hall that we showed you or did you listen to last week. My apologies still for that. They decided to spring the deployment this weekend. Now, why do you think they did that? Boss, do you have any, what possible reasons could test have for wanting to deploy so quickly after they announced that there would be something? What could it possibly be?
Well, if so many rats flee a sinking ship, you need to keep the ship moving such that the rats don't flee, because you want the rats on the ship and just be in denial about it. Here's the thing. One of the rules of war and of life is never to interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake, which sounds very wise. It didn't come from me. That's why it sounds wise. One of my favorite Napoleon lines. And wow, just wow. So one of the things I want to point out, last week we talked about this on the show. I said out loud something that we've used internally for a while, which is zone of rot, zone of death. A lot of the people in test had been talking a lot of shit about how we were supposed to invade them outer passage. And then when we didn't, they had no one to be shitty and toxic to but each other. And they were so shitty and toxic to each other, which is essentially the argument that we made all through the Vietnam War. You're going to be hearing a lot about the Vietnam War today because it was the major event of 2021, extremely important. Because the enemies of the Imperium showed their entire asses to the entire game and beyond. And we are never, ever, 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 ever going to allow them to forget it. So in the aftermath of the Vietnam War, after the Great Rout and the Beacon, we're going to be talking about all these greatest hits. It's been a wonderful year in terms of the doom of puppies. These guys scampered off to outer passage and insisted that at any moment we would be chasing them and that we were bad and wrong and lame for not chasing them to outer passage and invading them, where we proceeded to let them rot in their own filth, at which point they started tearing each other to shreds. And then in desperation, just before the holidays, they did something I never expected that they would do. They gave a town hall and they deployed on the same time that they did it. I mean, technically speaking, I think they said that they were going to have a big deployment or something, but they actually went up and moved. And people might have been there waiting for them immediately. It's been good. Do we want to go with the VPN stuff? Bruce, take us through. There's so much stupidity. Just walk us through this.
All of the test stuff happened. So listen. The reason why Test is deploying this week is not out of fun, and it's not because they wanted to do something cool right before the holidays, which makes zero fucking sense. They're doing it because their people are so fucking bored, they're all quitting and going other places. For example, here we see why VPN has left Test. This is a discussion by their main bomber FC, Seku, who is also the leader of Predators, which was their primary bombing SIG inside of Test, one of the very few things that anybody was scared of.
The only good bit about Test in terms of like org structure or like tactical, Psycho is, I don't know how to pronounce it. I said it out loud and it sounded like Psycho, but Seku, however you say it, These guys were talented. These guys are talented. And this is what happens when you have an organization that's full of people that are blacklisted in the Imperium. The toxics can't help themselves. And lo and behold, just like if you remember the Dr. Mibbles drama, Dr. Mibbles was kicked out mid-war over just something absolutely asinine that even a tiny bit of care and consideration and investigation and due diligence would have uncovered. And this is another scenario where the most talented and militarily effective part of Test Alliance has been driven out because of their own doing, right? This is literally, why does the Imperium have a blacklist? This is why, kids. This is why. Because if you have an entire group of people that are not monitored, that are not protected, when I say monitored, I mean, you got to look who's getting in, investigate their backgrounds, and make sure that they're not shit fucks. If you don't police your community, your talent will be driven away, which is a message for Test and a lot of other organizations, be they businesses or corporations. So here we are.
So essentially, right now, Test is in this horrible situation where they're losing corps, they're losing big groups, they're losing potentially Villy. We've heard constant reports that Villy is going to Horde this week. We've heard it multiple times. He has not moved yet. He'll probably do it after the show because he knows we're not going to be able to make fun of him for 2 weeks. So we got to get all of our hits in today. Trust me, they're coming. Okay. So you're desperate. Your guys are worried. Everybody's starting to think you're falling apart. You're living in the zone of rot. Everyone's worried because you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. What are you going to do? Well, all right, it's time for a deployment. We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll deploy. So they announced their deployment today. They're moving to Curse. The first thing that happens, the instant that they start moving is they get jumped on by Init and goons. So there was a fight today in In's mother on their first jump. Now, granted, the BR is a little messy. We lost a few more ships than we killed. But listen, we killed Dreads. We tackled one of their Titans for a while. We lost some Munins and some Serbs. We have thousands and thousands of these. We're not too worried about it. And yes, the BR is slightly in their favor. But the point of the matter is, these guys had to call out Horde to save them.
Oh, look at this. Look
and
at
of
this.
Course,
look at that.
This is their move op.
How familiar.
And Horde forms more than their move op did. Weird.
They only had... so this is a funny one, Brisk. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. I'm getting some intel over here about this. Who knows? Maybe they're going to end up in... We're not certain exactly where they're going to end up right now because maybe it's Curse, maybe it's Faith Atlas. We'll see. But here's what happened. Init, and I think Vex was out there too, grabbed this test move op. There was a few Titans there. There was some Dread stuff like that. And immediately, who starts pinging? Oh, gee, we've got Elf Boy and crew. So there's Horde. You had all of the NCPL,
all the Fire guys,
usual
everybody
suspects,
came out of it.
Because Fire, of course, don't forget, boys and girls, Fire has Severance in it. Piss P's gonna piss pee. The moment that their renters left the zone of rot into the zone of death, the hypocritical landlords of Piss P showed that they are still blue. Perhaps because there's a provision in their rental contract that when their renters and tests fuck up, they've got to go rush to their defense. But all this time, I have been saying since the end of the Vietnam War, the enemy is still the enemy. Piss P are still Piss P. These blue donut landlords want nothing more than to have their dominion over all. And the instant that any one of them is threatened, they will all blue each other once again because it is the only thing that they know how to do. And if you want to try to brag about how you won because some more Kikimoras were fed, that's great. Please keep doing it. And we will absolutely trade some Kikimoras for some more of your capital ships. I am perfectly cool with that. But look, everybody sees your whole ass in front of the entire galaxy. The moment that your little quislings in test got in trouble, you were tripping over yourselves desperately rage forming as best you could to save them. We know who you are. We know who your friends are. You are still all blue. You are still all buddies. You are still a bunch of hypocritical liars. And we are never going to let you forget that. And we're going to help you remember that by continuing to make fun of you the entire show, because most of 2021 is Pappy fucks up and gets owned, my friends. Pappy fucks up and gets owned.
That's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen. We're interested in seeing where Horde goes, where I shouldn't say Horde, where Test is going. I can't say Horde because they're going to follow. Wherever Test goes,
it's all Pappy.
They're going to end up somewhere probably within arm's reach of us smacking them. I'm looking forward to the rest of these fights. I don't know what kind of numbers they're going to get during the holidays, but hey, you know what? If you guys are that desperate to keep your groups together so it doesn't fail skate, we're more than happy to help push you over the edge. So we're looking forward to seeing some of that in the next few weeks. So that is the Nullsec Power Hour for today. It was very quick. There's only one other thing. Oh, I forgot. There's one other thing I forgot to mention. We can talk about this very briefly because I think this is kind of cute. All right. This is a Horde related thing. So Mittens, tell us a little bit about the Fireside last weekend. You announced a new fleet concept that we're doing. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to show you what happened next.
So the Imperium has a very important doctrine. I think that the thread might have actually already been posted. Yes, in fact, Arendis has sent the ping. We are happy to announce Stupid Idiot Fleet. Stupid Idiot Fleet is a new Homeland Defense doctrine for the Imperium, for stupid idiots, which we are. And it involves a lot of Black Ops battleships. As a result, Stupid Idiot Fleet, like goons in Blops BS. What could possibly
go wrong?
Right. It's something that was interesting and worth exploring and seemed like it might work. It might not. Like, we are probably about to lose a bunch of these things because we're stupid idiots in a fleet called Stupid Idiot Fleet. Right. Like, great. But I didn't expect, what was it? It was 4 days later. It was a quicker turnaround time.
Later. 4 days later, Gobbins, the leader of Pandemic Horde, announces Grim Fleet, which is their new rapid response Black Ops group specializing in da-da-da-da-da. What are they doing? They're going to use Black Ops battleships to defend their home space. The ink was not even dry on our really bad idea before they instantly copied it. And I have to give them credit, because normally it takes months before they copy our bad ideas. But now they're doing it like instantly, which really, I think, reinforces two things. One, they're completely unoriginal. And two, this is probably a really bad idea. So the fact that they adopted it that quickly kind of scares me. But you know what? That's not going to stop me from dropping my Marshall on anything in 1DQ that they tell me to drop it on.
Oh, don't worry, guys. The Avalanche is here in chat to tell us that actually we stole it from Fraternity. So apparently we all stole it from everybody. We didn't. We're idiots and we called it Stupid Idiot Fleet. Doesn't mean that other people haven't done it, because I think that it's obvious that there's some potential here, or who fucking knows. The point is, maybe this is why Gobbins is being so threatened and bitchy recently, is that Elf Boy's throwing little punches because he didn't like having everybody point out that he's creatively bankrupt and is essentially a bootlicking administrator running a project that was designed by better and more competent men, and that he is left with only attempting to copy those who dare and do it ineptly. So, whatever, he's in a mood. Let's put him in more of a mood by talking about facts.
He was so excited by the fact that for apparently 1 week in the history of Eve, Horde killed more stuff than Goons did, that he had to ping out about it to brag.
Oh no!
Congratulations!
Oh no, Elf Boy! Oh no, you said a mean thing. You said a mean thing about my kill board. Elf Boy. What am I going to do? Where's my fudge stripes, bitch?
Yeah.
One of the things I would like to invite everybody in Eve to do, because apparently Goons are weak because our kill board is low, and you killed some more Kikimoras. You're moving your test, and you're going to try to go to Faithabilis, or maybe you're going to try to make a play in the Galactic Southeast. Bring it, bitches! Absolutely fucking bring it. Let's give you summary judgment. You're right about everything. our killboard numbers are dropping. Goonswarm and the Imperium are weak.
We were
Surely
so mean
now
to
is the
CCP,
time
and now
to
all our players
strike.
are quitting. Oh,
bring it, you little elf boy bitch. Bring it.
because we're going to talk about.
Shut up, motherfucker.
We're going to talk about what happened last year. This is what happened in 2021. We know what happened in 2021 the last time you brought it.
Yep.
So let's get into this. So, all right. So here we go. We're going to move into the next part of the show. This is the top 10 biggest stories in EVE Online in 2021. Now, listen, we talked about a lot of different stuff that happened in EVE this year. There's been a ton of stuff. And when I was first doing this list, I have to say I was concerned because I was thinking, man, was there a lot of stuff this year? It doesn't feel like there was a lot of stuff this year. But that's because this year has felt so long.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize the amount of things that happened in the game this year. And I was looking back on the last episode we did on the Meta Show in 2020, and we did this top 10 list the exact same way we're going to do it now. And the number one thing that had happened was the Fury and FWST. That was the biggest fight in the history of EVE by the point that we did that show. Little did we know, less than a week later would come M2 and the biggest fights in the history of EVE, and not only our proudest moment, but one of the dumbest things that's going to happen, and Frank will talk about that later. So I need you guys to realize and remember and think back, there has been a ton of stuff that had happened in the last year. So we're going to go over some of these things. So before we get started, we got a couple of honorable mentions before we get to the top 10 stories.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I would like to point out is the Pappy Snowden leaks. Now, these happened at the end of the war, once everything was kind of over. But what they did and why they're important enough for us to at least mention, even though they don't make it to the top 10, is Pappy Snowden managed to show that all of the stuff that we had been telling you on the Meta Show for the last year had been true. Test's internal command was screwed up. Pappy's internal cohort group was screwed up. Nobody wanted to be in charge. Everybody was arguing with each other. The folks at NC thought they knew better, and then those guys left, and there were all kinds of fights. And then we got to be a fly on the wall the minute crazy things like Piggles starting to unanchor Keepstars before the announcement that they're ending the war, and any of that stuff happened. We got to watch it. So this was important. And Mittens, I know you got a kick out of these.
The Pappy Snowden stuff was hilarious because obviously I am Pappy Snowden. I've repeatedly told everybody that I'm Pappy Snowden. Matterall called it out. He got it exactly right. I am Pappy Snowden. But then it turned out it was actually Shattered Armor, or it's confusing. But
we don't know.
It was one of the original Sinners guys. But regardless of who it was me. It turned out that we were absolutely right. Like, the thing about the Pappy Snowden stuff is that it was really, I'm trying to remember when the leaks began. I think it was happening during one of the lower periods of the war. Like, I think it was during like the wood chipper era, when, after M2, but not too much had been going on, except for Gobbins making promises for dumb ideas that he couldn't deliver on, and then trying to act like they didn't happen, which is a day or a week that ends in Y. Regardless, the Pappy Snowden stuff showed behind the scenes what was actually happening within Pappy. And this was important because through most of the war, the leaders of Pappy, Gobbins, Philly, ProGod, Manfred Sidious, all of these stellar luminaries of EVE Online, had been insisting that what we said was lies and wrong and whatever. And then out come all of this stuff that proves that we were right the entire time, and that our enemies, who had banded together with the entire galaxy for a year and a half, were completely full of shit. And that is one of the other reasons why we won, is that at a fundamental level, we weren't lying to our line members. We weren't constantly infighting. We were all in the trench together. And what you saw from the Pappy Snowden leaks was really exactly the kind of toxic culture that results in stuff like Test driving away their best and only really unique bomber group because they just can't control their toxicity. So Pappy Snowden was great because it proved that they are all a bunch of pieces of shit, and that we were right the entire time. I love being right. I'm wrong a lot. It's not a big deal when I'm wrong. But in a scenario when we're putting our necks out there, telling you the truth on the meta show, and the puppies get together and say that if Brisk and Mittens say the sky is blue, the sky must be green, it is delightful to be able to point to outside evidence that shows that we were right and they were full of shit. But that's only an honorable mention because there's so much more.
There's so much other stuff.
I know.
So the next up, honorable mention. We had some major changes to the game. These were all things that I think, generally speaking, are changes that, while may have been controversial at the time, have turned out to be okay. And people are either like them or we have assimilated them and they're not that big a deal. So the fact that CCP finally got any kind of thing to address AFK cloaky camping was humongous. That was a big change. And while they did nullification in a monkey's paw kind of way where we asked to have it taken away from ships and they added it to more, at least we got nullification on shuttles, and I think that was important. And then fleet formations, that gave us the chance to do the amazing dick maneuver that you see on the screen here. We would not have been able
make a penis shooting
to
bubbles.
do our penis formation without these fleet formations. We've had a lot of fun with fleet formations. We've done init formations. We've done all kinds of different stuff. And I really liked it. It was one of my favorite things that happened this year. So I want to give CCP a shout out. These were good changes that we kind of liked compared to some of the other changes that were not that great. But anyway, we'll get there. So next up, our final honorable mention, and I can't believe this actually happened this year. I fixed the red dot. We got the, wait a second,
right.
where are these fucking red dots? Get out of here. No red dots. We fixed the red dots. Red dot toggle was added. This is another honorable mention. This was a huge deal at the very beginning of the year. It happened like the second week in January. It was great. It was great. And I was very pleased that we were able to make that happen. I rode that to a third term on the CSM, but I wanted to remind you guys, it was only this year that the fucking red dot got fixed. That's how long this year has been. That's how long the year has been. All right. Now we're moving into our top 10 list. These are the official top 10 things, the stories of Eve in 2021. Drum roll, please. Number 10 is Pando and Apple Pear's bomb run that ended a year.
Yes.
Ended a war. Here's the deal. This was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. We were so pleased to be able to have this happen. It was just nuts that at the end of this war, they put their claim out. They're going to do their one big pitch. Here is the live version of, well, it's one of the live versions of it. You can watch some of this on the screen. They put themselves on a gate in such a position that they lost 2 whole fleets. This was by far the biggest single bombing run in the history of EVE Online, and it happened in 2021. It was the last gasp of Pappy desperately trying to get out. This was the start of their big push, and it was during this fight that Piggle started unanchoring Keepstars that ended up with the war being blown open and way over because the bad guys finally announced that they were leaving. It's hard to put into words how important this bombing run was, not only in the overall scheme of Eve, but also for the fact that it was the last gasp of a dying blue donut. The one we have now is like a zombie one. Get in there.
One of the corrections we need to make here is it was Alice Homoloa's, not it was Alice, not Apple Pears.
Yes. I'm sorry, I fucked it up.
An A name.
It was Alice's.
Right? Alice.
I'm an idiot.
Yes.
All right.
But that's fine. We love idiots. I am an idiot. It is all good. No, this was huge. Like, this was one of those instances where we really got to see the consequences of the PISP committee of landlords' inability to adapt to changing circumstances, right? When you get owned, and then you immediately go back and get owned in a bigger way, doing the exact same thing you did before, is essentially, if you wanted to have a meta narrative for the war, that was the war writ large. But I have never been a witness to just such utter catastrophic repeated ownage. And at the end of the day, in addition to the skill of these amazing Bomber FCs, I have to give a shout out to Pispy, is that if it wasn't for your poor choices in leaders, if it wasn't for your incessant desire to lick boots and follow incompetence off of a cliff, we wouldn't be able to own you so hard and then make fun of you about it nearly a year later. So really, it's a team effort, and I really want to thank our enemies for lining up to get dunked on Washington General style by some of the best Bomber FCs in the history of EVE. My God, what a run.
There you go. All right. That was number 10. Number 9. Seriously's morale building music. Now listen, this is not something that I fucked up, okay? Because let me put this out. I'll get this going.
These were so good.
It is hard to put into words how good the Seriously songs were. He put out a string of bangers, literally one a week for about 3 months in a row. This was right after M2. It was still when the war was, we didn't know what was going to happen. The bad guys were still trying to push through. They were still going to kill another 30 Keep Stars in Delve. We didn't know what was going to happen. Seriously, single-handedly kept the morale of the entire Imperium going with these frickin' songs. It is absolutely, by far, the best stuff that I've ever seen. And I love all these songs. These are some of the best songs we've ever heard. They're great. They're amazing.
They're just in the history of, like, one of the things that really made me realize that no matter what happened, no matter the cost, as long as we didn't break, that we would beat the entire galaxy, even if it took them a year and a half, is just because our people give a shit more about each other. Like, at the end of the day, there are stronger and more coherent bonds in the Imperium society than in anything amongst the sort of the barbarian pubby hordes. And you really do see that here, is that as our organization came under more pressure over the course of this war, the reaction was not to turn on each other, which is what you're seeing in Test and in the normal pappy culture. It was to bring each other closer. And there was a very quick turnaround. A lot of times there would be an event that would happen. Mind One would do a thing, and then like a day later, there's a whole series. Like the combination of, I'm gonna make sure I'm not jumping ahead in here. I can give shout outs to Mind One. Yeah, basically Mind One, Seriously, everybody, and it wasn't just them. Like they were leading the vanguard of propaganda production, right? Like if something would happen and then we would have a theme song for that week. And you know what? Pispy didn't. Pispy did not. They had a couple of guys trying to do rap diss tracks that ended up being propaganda for us because they were so bad. And I think it really goes to show how culturally hollowed out and weak the toxic leadership of our enemies proved, because their line members had nothing to cheer for except for Goon, we're mad at Goon, follow Elf Boy. And this is what you get. We enjoyed it. We had great theme songs the entire time. Thank you so much to Seriously. Thank you so much for Mind One. Thank you so much to everybody who helped write the lyrics for these. These were not individual efforts. Seriously had I forgot his name, actually, because it's a real life name I don't want to say out loud. But the guy who was singing for all, it was just amazing, the range, and that you could do so many different cool songs about a war in EVE Online.
It was amazing. And I mean, seriously, like, if you haven't heard these songs, go listen to them. They're on Seriously's site. I will link it in the chat. And I promise I'm not pancake catting you guys, although I really should have right there. I'm not even going to lie. All right. Moving on to the next thing, number 8 on our list. Of the top stories that happened in EVE this year, the Air NPE. So I know that a lot of people have complained quite a bit about CCP's constant redoing of the new player experience. This has been something that we have seen repeatedly. They have thrown tons and tons and tons of money and effort and time into redoing the NPE. And I hate to say this, because it means I have to give them a lot of credit, but I'll tell you this right now. I've run it. I've seen the numbers. They finally got it right. This Air NPE is fun. It's interesting. The visuals are stunning. It is a cool thing to do. They finally have, for the first time, actual audio of people talking, like live action audio in the game. It looks good. It sounds good. It's fun to play. And they get you immediately into an Astero. They get you immediately into like the beautiful visuals of EVE Online. They did a good job with this Air NPE. Now, the next step, they need to finish it. The first half an hour, 45 minutes of gameplay is excellent, and then they dump you into career agents. They need to fix that. I'm confident that they've laid the groundwork, that they're going to get this done, but this finally getting a new player experience that is up to date, that is something close to something you would expect to see of a game in 2021, that made me happy. So this was the 8th biggest story of the year. Next up, number 7. This was the year of the beacon, and there were 2 different beacons, and that's the best part. There were 2 different beacons, and you've had, first of all, we had the AJI beacon in Delve, where dozens and dozens and dozens of goons learned that they should always jump to a beacon or jump to a ship from their watch list, not from their capacitor, because they learned what not to do. And then we turned around and took it and turned it into high art. And I'm going to show you, this is one of the videos that Dreadbomb put together of just the kills that they got while Pappy was running away. This is my favorite because it's absolutely hilarious, the number of kills they got. And how did they do it? Pappy was escaping through Catch. UTAC-Q is a system in Catch. There is also a system called UQ-TAC in Catch in the same jump range. They set up a bait beacon, and they killed everything that came through there that jumped to the wrong beacon. They got dreads. They got faxes. They got carriers. They got jump freighters. They got titans. They got Rorquals, all on this bait beacon. We have never seen the number of random shit dying on bait beacons in EVE Online that we saw in 2021. It was glorious. If there has ever been a year of the beacon, or the beacon provides, it was 2021.
One of the things that made this extra awesome is that live by the sword, die by the sword, right? Like these guys, you have to learn to not jump to beacons randomly. You will die, right? You have to learn from that. And one of the reasons why UQ ended up being so awesome is that during what we ended up calling the Great Rout, these guys had kicked off a fuel crisis because they had to run across the galaxy away from the Imperium. And they ran so fast because their leaders failed them so utterly that their evacuation was a disaster, which created a galactic fuel crisis. And then Corns, I'm going to add an honorable mention here. This is goon stuff here. Corns came out with a phrase to describe the running of the puppies, and he analogized them to stunned carp. And I had made stunned carp jokes for like a month. I couldn't stop calling them stunned carp because it was just the best possible description of these stunned carp desperately flapping their way north, hopping upstream, going to the wrong beacon, losing titans, losing carriers. Wait, Elfboy told us that we were in T5ZI and it was going to be fine, and we were totally just about to take out the Imperium. Oh God, why do we have no fuel and why are we running? If at this point you're still following those leaders, you have made your choice. You have chosen to follow fools who have led you to failure and misery, and you get what you deserve. And we are pointing and laughing.
Yep. All right. Next up, number 6. We are moving along quickly. EVE Vegas 2021. Why is EVE Vegas a big deal? Well, first of all, this was the first major player get-together since the start of the pandemic. EVE Vegas 2020 was canceled. All EVE meets were canceled in 2020, and most EVE meets in 2021 were canceled as well. CCP did not do a single CCP-sponsored event in the last 2 years. They're starting off next year with FanFest, but this was the first chance that many of us had got to get together. There had been, obviously, we did Madison a month or so before EVE Vegas. People got a chance to get together in Madison. But this was the first entire game-wide event that had happened during the pandemic. And it was so good to get everybody back together and hang out again.
It was.
It was great. And this was, I think, another thing to remember was that this was going to happen anyway because CCP had wanted to go to EVE to do San Diego rather than Vegas. And I think, if anything, we have proven EVE and Vegas go together like peas and carrots, and you can't walk away from the biggest and best and oldest of these EVE events. I outside of FanFest. And that's why we were happy to do it last year. It was a lot of fun, wasn't it, boss? I had a lot of fun.
Vegas was a blast. And, I'm, hope is the first step on the road to disappointment. But, I do keep track of that lovely English doctor. I think his name is John Armstrong, but I have to look it up. But, the English COVID, YouTuber who gives updates on things. And I'm hopeful that with the speed of the Omicron wave, we might see some light at the end of the tunnel by, it's spreading so rapidly that maybe. Well, we'll see. I don't want to jinx it, but things are actually looking not so terrible in the plague news, in the sense that if just everybody gets the plague really fucking fast and it turns out to be not so bad, whatever. We're not going to go there. I don't want to be wrong. Be safe with the Omicron thing, but maybe by March we'll be free of this nightmare. I want to fly around the world and have fun with space nerds again. So
we want to.
Missed you nerds.
All right.
Yes, absolutely.
So now, moving on. We are moving on to number 5. Number 5. 5 is alive. Legacy collapses. This was a huge story. And the reason why we're bringing this up, I know we like to harp on Test and we like to make fun of everybody, but listen. When this war started, the top 3 biggest coalitions in the game, the Imperium was number 1, PanFam was number 3. Legacy was number 2. They were huge. They had all of Brave. They had Test. They had Evictus. They had a bunch of other smaller groups, Warped Intentions. They had a lot of these, like Rosada Regnum, and they had Requiem Eternal. They had a bunch of different guys. They covered massive swaths of space, and they had just come off of a victory against Fraternity that had taken 7 to 8 months. By the time the war was over, this coalition had fallen apart. Half the groups in it had fail-skated. The other half were estranged from each other. And now we're in a bipolar universe. We've got Imperium, and then we've got everyone else. Whether it's PanFam, whether it's the Legacy remnants, whether it's Fire, who are just really essentially just an appendage of these other groups. We're in a bipolar world, and it's weird. But does this totally happen?
This is not the first time in Eve's history that we've been in a bipolar world. What's interesting about this, I think, is that it's bipolar, but extremely lopsided in terms of the numbers. As I will never allow the enemy to forget, they formed up 152,000 pilots and blued 103 alliances. And the responsibility for doing this, as we learned from the Pappy Snowden leaks, the responsibility for this ultimately began with Test. A cabal within Test got together with whatever dumbass plan it was that Manfred Sidious, a terrible, idiotic racist who nobody should ever associate with, they all got together and followed this guy and had this wonderful plan. It had a dumb name, which I'm spacing out on now. But these guys, now we're in this phase where a few minutes ago you could have said that Pappy isn't Pappy anymore, but they all just formed up immediately to rescue Test. So yeah, we are in a bipolar galaxy. The Imperium always needs to remember that all of these people are still our enemy, and they might want to make us forget. But what is interesting, I would say, is that there have been actual losses in the aftermath of Legacy's collapse, because like with Test's toxicity towards their own bomber group, they turned around, and what did Pappy do about the less fortunate Legacy alliances? Well, Brave Newbies was harvested and attacked relentlessly by their own allies, some clips of which we played on last week's show showing what Test really thinks about their allies, because gosh, those guys are great. So Brave is in a sort of a depleted state. Test is in a depleted state because Elf Boy is just going to poach the fuck out of Test, but maybe not, because they're all banding together to save Test. But there were, and Severance imploded, and that core group ended up in fire. So every time that these guys collapse and consolidate due to their fuckery, they do actually have some honest to God org degradation, because they just can't help be shitty to each other, because that's who they are. So it's not just a hypothetical like, hey, Legacy is gone and whatever. Legacy is gone, and several of those alliances, many of those alliances, are actually just disbanded or no longer with us. This was always going to be, and as somebody pointed this out in chat, I said all along, in a block war where 3 blocks enter, 2 blocks will leave, and a bunch of the dead alliances from this conflict ended up in Legacy. What did Legacy do? They believed in their shitty leaders. They refused to listen to alternative points of view, and they believed that they could colonize Delve. So they put all of their personal assets down in Delve because I'm just lying about everything, and goons will immediately leave Delve at any moment now because Villy said so. And so they followed a dumbass off a cliff and lost their shit for it. And of course, none of them have learned the lesson from this. But that's where we are. It's a great topic as number 5. Number 5.
So it's number 5 is alive. Don't disassemble number 5. Here we go. Next up, number 4. We got to keep moving because we got a lot of more stuff. We got a lot of content today.
We do.
So we're up number 4, the Alliance Tournament. The return of the Alliance Tournament 17. People said it would never happen. People said CCP is never going to do another Alliance Tournament. CCP Aurora said, I'm going to make it happen. And she, along with Swift and the rest of the community team, got together, made it happen, put this together. I spelled tournament wrong because you know what? Obviously, I was not paying attention when I did this. I was playing a D&D game with Sadis. Thank you guys for catching this. That's the second fuck up in this one. I should put myself on Fountain Frank's top 10 dumbasses in EVE this year for spelling things wrong. But regardless, number 4 was the Alliance Tournament. This was a huge deal. We're going to see the first introduction of new Alliance Tournament ships in a long time. We saw a great fight between a lot of the old groups, and it didn't make it very far, unfortunately. Goons made it a little farther, but not very much. And we come out with Hydra, Vidra, Templus, all the guys we like to see in the finals. And I was very excited to finally get a chance to see an Alliance Tournament again for the first time in 3 years. This was a big deal. Regardless of whether you think it was a big deal or not, it was a big deal. This was a big deal. The numbers they got on the stream, they got a ton of people watching EVE Online, which was good. Which is what we like to see. So, moving on. Next up, we are getting to the close to the end, close to the top. Number 3, the industry and the mining changes. This is the number 3 biggest thing that happened this year. Obviously, if you've watched the Meta Show, you know what we think about these. These were not the best changes, but they happened, and they upended a lot of different things in the meta. They've made it very difficult to build caps. They've made it very difficult to do a lot of things. They've created a lot of player unrest. They've created riots that people are still arguing over the size of. And the result, I think, is still a little early for us to tell, but it absolutely, these changes were in the top 3 biggest things that happened in the game in 2021. Whether you like them or not, most of you watching the show probably don't. Some of you may, but there's no mistaking that this was a huge thing that happened in EVE in 2021. You have anything to say about it, boss?
I'm sure that everything is fine and there's nothing to worry about. So let's move on to the next one.
All right, next up. This is number 2. And I have to, before we get to numbers, I'm going to preface this. We'll get there. The Massacres at M2 and the M2 Hell Camp, we put them all together because we didn't do M2 last year because it happened between when we did the end of the year episode and the beginning of the year. M2, the first M2 was December 30th and 31st, very much at the very end of 2020. The second M2 was a week later, obviously, for the Hull Timer. The numbers of ships that died, the fact that we broke the Guinness World Record 3 times in the span of a week of the number of players in one system, and then the Hell Camp that we maintained for months afterwards that just demonstrated how completely crazy and single-minded the goons can be when we want to be, when the Imperium can be when we want to be. Holding on to that pigeon in M2 for months. It was absolutely crazy, and it was huge, and it was probably, I think, at least for me, some of the most fun that I've ever had in this game, and it'll be remembered as long as EVE is a game. People will be talking about M2.
I want to go ahead and we're going to run a little over. I don't want to run too much over, but I do have a whole thing about M2 is in the beginning of the war, I got up in front of the Imperium, and every week on the Meta Show, I would say what I thought the war was going to be. And I said that it was going to be a long, slow process where we would be falling back and, using our interior lines of reinforcement and whatever. And then I predicted that there would be a super capital fight, and I predicted that we would win that super capital fight. One of the reasons I predicted that we would win that super capital fight is that in 2019, we sent 1,100 Titans to attack NC Dot. And they just left, right? Which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. They treated their space like it was a floodplain. And I said that, we would, and so these guys invade us and they brag about how they have almost 1,000 Titans. Like, we sent 1,100 north to attack you the previous year, and we're supposed to be intimidated by you attacking us with less strategic assets. So we literally just have to hold the line and draw you in to a point that you then risk these things, and then we annihilate you. And I had also said after there would be a super cap fight, we would probably have a hell camp. We tried with Operation Inho. That didn't work out. It worked out just fine with M2. So one of the things about this was M2 was something we predicted. It's something that I never expected that we would end up with that many dead hostile Titans. And then on the breakout, quite significantly, they did manage to get most of their Titans out. We didn't get many Titan kills at all, I think, on the M2 breakout. I think it was just a handful, if any. Maybe there's 3 or 4.
We killed some supers on the breakout.
We got 411 of their dreadnoughts on the way out. Now, of course, we used lots of dreadnoughts when we were attacking their keep stars and things like that. But it's just one of the funny ironies of watching Elf Boy and Piggles and Mr. Fourth Place and their lick spittles get together and talk about how important it is to do whatever involving Titans, is that these guys, Gobbins has been loudly telling everyone how much scarcity is a good thing and how CCP is great and how all of these changes are wonderful. And Villy is fighting from the rooftops saying that CCP can do no wrong. And they've done it in such a way where they have lost all of these Titans versus us. And now Tess can't even pay back the debts for the Titans that they still haven't reimbursed, because Titans are now worth like 350 billion ISK to build. Right now, those numbers are a floating point, but it is very significant from a strategic position that we won, and we camped the hell out of them. And I look forward to them building lots of 350 billion S Titans or whatever crap it is that they think is great for the game. So yeah, good shit. Glad we won. Better than the other guys.
Now, finally, drum roll, please. The number one most biggest, craziest story in EVE Online of 2021 is the victory in Vietnam. We won. We won. The war's over. It was over. Guys, listen. 2/3 of the game came at us.
Yeah.
They said we were dead so many different times.
Eat shit.
They said we were dead after the floodplains. They said we were dead when they got to Delve. They said we were dead when they dropped their Keep Star and they finally got a Keep Star on YZ9. They said they were dead when they dropped the T5Z Keep Star. They said we were dead after M2. Guys. Within the EULA, they totally, no, they didn't. We won. Villy admits it. Why, we may have won pieces of the war, and he spelled something wrong too, so it's not just me today.
Oh, Villy,
but we most certainly have lost in the end.
Yeah.
Guys.
So hard and so fast that you create a fuel crisis because your leaders are so fucking incompetent.
They bought up all the fuel in the game to run away from us.
It was just amazing to see it's like watching a market crash or something. Is suddenly everybody realizes that tulips are not actually a good investment, and Villy and Gobbins' leadership is actually shit. And these guys were justifying to everyone that T5ZI was such a great move. And of course, exactly as we said it would, week after week after week after week, it was a huge overreach. And when it turned on them, it swung hard. I'm glad that we won because we deserve to win. We deserve to win because we have a community that is worth fighting for. We have a community that believes it's worth fighting for because they will fight against the entire galaxy for a year and a half at 3-1 odds when everybody insists that we would lose, and we won conclusively on every level, on every metric. Our enemies, most of them, so many of their alliances have now been disbanded. So many of them lost things. And I'm sure that everything I'm saying now is going to be written off as a lie, just like it was during the war, which is why you lost. And I look forward to more justifications. The more I say that Elf Boy is a shit leader, the more I say that Villy is a shit leader, the more that I say that Pro God Legend is a shit leader, the more that I say that a group of hypocritical landlord wannabes are crap at EVE Online, the more that our enemies will dig in and insist that they are not, which is why I keep doing it. You choose the leaders you deserve. Eat shit. You lost. You deserve to lose. You started the war on a whole bunch of lies and false pretenses. Let it not be forgotten that this war was started under the pretense of a war of extermination, using language of a war of extermination to remove goons and little old me from the video game EVE Online, which worked out really well for Band of Brothers, and it worked out really well for Progod and Villy and Elf Boy and all of those bootlickers. So here we are. We're never going to forget. We never forget. We know who
number
you are.
one.
Mm-hmm. Number
All
one.
right, if you guys want the guys audio, I just linked it in the chat.
Let's do it.
There you go.
Let's do it.
All right, so that's the number one story in EVE. Now listen, we had a ton of other things. There were obviously a ton of other things that we could have potentially brought in here. We could have talked about a variety of other stuff. We could have talked about blowing up the T5Z Keep Store. We could have talked about the EVE Anywhere in the Mac client. We could have talked about the low set gate to stain or TTT getting fucked by tax changes. There's all kinds of stuff that happened in 2021. This was the stuff that we put in there at the top. Now, Frank is here. He's champing at the bit. He's outside my office. He's desperately to get in here. He wants to tell you guys his view and George's view of what was going on this year. So let me go get him. I'll be right back. And we'll be in here for the next top 10 list of the show. The top 10 dumbest shit that happened in EVE in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Fountain Frank. We are here. I'm back. George is with me. George, say hi to everybody, George. George is here. It's fucking Christmas. Merry fucking Christmas, everybody. We are going to do some fun things today. I have come up with, and George worked very hard on this. This is our top 10 list of dumbest shit in EVE in 2021. Because you guys, listen, let me just tell you this, okay? A lot of dumb shit happened in EVE this year. And not just the fact that Brisk can't tell who the hell Alice is compared to Apple Pear, because he's a dumbass, and because he can't spell things properly, because he's also a dumbass. A ton of other dumb shit happened in EVE. Perfect example, our honorable mention, the first one, this guy. How the fuck do you lose a hell on a gate to a rat in 2021? I don't even know. Like, George showed me this, and I was like, George, did you have anything to do with this? Did you have anything to do with this, George? He said, no. I don't even get it. Like, how the fuck does this happen? But that's an honorable mention, because you know what? Shit like this happens all the time. And on the other spectrum, you have dumb shit that happens to really smart people who think they're smarter than everybody else, like the guys that put together these Red Donut forums. Do you remember the Red Donut forums? No, you don't. Of course you don't, because nobody fucking used them. Okay? The last post on this thing was November 9th, 2021. This was Rich Richmond and Phantomite and all these guys come together. They're the smartest people in EVE. They want a place that's not Reddit and not the forums, that they can talk about all their crazy small gang warfare shit. And they had fewer posts on this thing than CCP Rattati has Reddit Karma, which, if you know what I'm talking about, is a fucking amazing feat. Nobody used this thing. All right. Honorable mention, dumbest shit that happened in EVE. We're getting on the top 10 dumbest shit in EVE Online. Number 10. We're going to do drum roll, November 10. every Test and Legacy town hall. Oh my God. Besides the fact that you had the collective use of the entire nation's strategic reserve dumped on every time they did one of these town halls, the worst part was I had to listen to them. What the absolute fuck was that? I mean, that's all I have to say. You know, guys,
expect disappointment. Expect disappointment.
Duck of disappointment. If he actually did more town halls, he might be on this list, but he's not, because we had to listen to every Test Legacy town hall. It was pretty bad. So, all right, moving on. Number 9. Dreaded kicks out Dr. Mibbles. I mean, can you put into words how fucking dumb this was? Because they gave the most prolific shit poster on Reddit at the time, and they drove him right into the arms of the bad guys. And we took him, and you know what? We loved it, because Mibbles is a stud. And he went out there, and I'm telling you this right now, first of all, one, Mibbles did nothing wrong. Second of all, having him to make fun of the guys that he had been defending over and over again, that was a turning point in last year's war. Don't let anybody tell you this otherwise. And I wish George could take credit for it, but he can't, because he had nothing to do with it. That was all Dreaded fucking up. Now, next up, number 8. You guys, I mean, of course, this is on the list. Test mocks war bonds and then issues them. And I'm pretty sure they're repayable in 2091. So you only have another 70 years before you can get your money back. Maybe Eve will still be going by then. Who knows? But the bottom line is, there's nothing funnier than when you mock something and then you fucking copy it. And not only do you copy it, you copied it and you did it shittily, and now you can't pay them back. Congratulations, Test. Have fun with that. Now, they did a lot of dumb shit. A lot of dumb shit. But it's hard to put into words how dumb the next one is. So let's get to the next one. What did they do that was dumb? Number 7. They put a Keep Star in T5ZI right next door to 1DQ. How dumb was this? Congratulations, guys. You just handed goons instant content for the rest of the war. All we had to do was sit on the gate and wait for you dipshits to come through it and shoot you. That was one of the absolute dumbest things that they could have possibly done.
God,
it was great.
They did. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was so stupid. And they insisted it was great. They insisted it was a genius strategic move, and that it was just goons desperately saying that it was bad. Stop me if this sounds familiar. Until it blew up in their faces, and they fucked up so badly that they created a fuel crisis as the Earth, basically all of T5ZI just got swallowed by the Earth. Like Delve healed and they died. Thank you for making that decision. Whoever made that decision, I don't know who it was. Maybe we'll find out.
It was a group decision, Mittens.
A group decision.
Come on. It was a group decision. Anyway, next up, number 6. We're moving on quickly here. Number 6. Piggles starts unanchoring Keep Stars in the middle of a fight.
Oh, God.
And then we know from Pappy Snowden that he had to go crawling hat in hand to the boys to explain and promise. Guys, yes, this is my fault, but I promise you, I swear to God, I did not think it would cause this problem, and I did not think it through. Yes, thank you for telling everybody that the war was over before you told your own people that the war was over.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank you, Pickles. All right, next up, number 5. This one is near to Brisk's heart, and he asked me to put it on the list. This is less of an Eve thing, more of an outside Eve thing, but still, it was Matterall compares Mittens' ping about Villy CSM appearance to January 6th, and he still does. I mean, it's hard to put into words how dumb it is to compare real-life political insurrections to a ping on Twitch. but he did it. And he stands by it. Mittens, go ahead. I can see the look on your face. You want to say something.
You know, it's just these guys, you know, one of the things through the war is periodically these dudes would just blow their own balls off, right? Like crying in stations was the piss pee hypocrisy propaganda network of choice. And this dude just set it all on fire one day because he, you know, was too attached to Olmeca's dick, and they blew up their entire propaganda network, right? In the middle of a war. And he's still swinging the rooftops because, like a lot of these motherfuckers, he can't be wrong. He's absolutely right. Matterall was absolutely right about one thing, which was me being Pappy Snowden, as we know. As we all know, but with the exception of getting it right that I'm Pappy Snowden, it's just stunning. Now we don't normally give him attention. He definitely wants attention and oxygen. But this was definitely a deserved being there because they just blew up their entire propaganda network for no reason. Because I guess he got, you know, I was a Bernie Sanders guy, for God's sakes. I was very loudly a Bernie Sanders guy back in the before times when that stuff mattered. But you know, I hear that guy knows the Matani.
He knows the Matani.
He does.
It won't save his jump freighter, but he can say it. All right. So ignoring Matt or not and getting back in here. Number 4, dumbest thing that happened in Eve in 2021. Gobbins tries to sell billionist Tengus and then cancels the week of war later. I feel bad for the Horde guys because I've never seen this kind of a bait and switch before. We're going to make you guys build and stock and buy, especially the poor Brave guys. And they do all this stuff, and then the war's over, and you're stuck with this overpriced piece of shit thing that never is going to be used for anything, and you're never going to get your money back. But I guess if you were building them, congratulations, you made some bank off the dipshits in your alliance and your coalition. Congratulations. The number 4 dumbest thing that happened in Eve in 2021. Now, you guys remember the number 3 biggest story of Eve that Briss mentioned was the industry and mining updates. Well, guess what the dumbest number 3 thing is? The industry and mining changes. Scarcity equals poop. I don't even have to talk about it. I just put it on the screen. You guys know why we don't like it.
I just want to throw in here, talk to your CSMs. All I know is very publicly sending broadcasts and bragging about his killboard history. Gobbins and Villy in separate incidents and Kenneth Feld have been very loud about how they support what's going on, and that anyone who is criticizing it is a goon sympathizer and should be ignored. So apparently there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of goon sympathizers that I was unaware of. And honestly, I welcome. If you've been unfairly accused of being a goon sympathizer, welcome aboard. You're in interesting company.
There you go.
I got nothing beyond that.
All right. Moving on. Number 2. The number 2 dumbest thing that happened in 2021. You guys have to have been waiting for this because it is probably the biggest strategic blunder in the history of EVE Online, but it was only the second dumbest thing in 2021. Jumping your Titan fleet into 10,000 fighters. Duh. Maybe that was not the smartest thing you guys could have done last year. Let me just tell you. Because the result was a lot of dead shit. Even the fact that the servers couldn't handle how many ships were dying, that we had ghost Titans, and we had to figure out, or did somebody actually get their Titan back? Did it actually jump in? We don't know. The best part of this whole thing was when we hear from Billy and the guys, not only they thought this was a good idea, they kept jumping in. Like, we'll jump more in after we jump our stuff in.
Yeah, to be fair to some of the parts of Pappy that were not completely head up their ass, at least some parts of Pappy had learned to not listen to Villy or Elfboy, but Villy and Elfboy just rammed it on in there. It was stunning. It's like the first M2 was a neck and neck fight. We were up for many, many hours. It was trading back and forth, and we won in the end. Then they seeded the field, and we were all gearing up for a bunch of very frightening scenarios. And then I think that they literally just didn't have fighters on their overview, and they decided to go in on a Sino that it had already been decloaked. Everybody saw the Sino ship, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, we're just running out of time, so we'll just lose more than 100 Titans about it for no good reason." Really, I hope that the more that we criticize the leadership of Elf Boy and everybody else from the Pispy side, I hope that it makes our enemies just double down on following them more and harder, because it's been working out great for us, really. It's just really couldn't hope for better enemy leadership all across the board. Please ignore me and Frank.
There you go. There you go. All right. Are you ready?
Number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of the top 10 list. George and I have quite enjoyed putting this together for you. I spelled it much better than Brisk did. So again, when I've got George working with me, we put stuff together. But as you guys all want to know, the number one dumbest shit in EVE Online in 2021, Billy.
Oh my fucking God. It's
technically
true,
that's fourth
though.
place.
It's true.
Technically it's fourth place. But he finally won something. He finally won something. He's number one.
Oh my God. Who can argue with it, though? I mean, it's absolutely true. My God. My God. Gosh, that guy's smart. Let's follow him off a cliff.
And that, everybody, was the top 10 dumbest shit that happened in EVE Online, or that existed in EVE Online in 2021. Now, I'm going to go back here. Mittens, talk a little bit. I'm going to go find Brisk. I'm sure he's gotten into the booze again. So hang out here and chat with people, and I will be back with Brisk here in a moment.
Excellent. Thank you so much to Fountain Frank and to Aquarius George for putting that together. That is absolutely astounding. Oh, wow. Okay, so that happened. I look forward to loser, hypocrite, nerd failures who don't like being called out on being loser, hypocrite, nerd failures after loudly telling anybody that would listen for a year and a half about a war of extermination and essentially a cultural holy war against me and all of our friends, as if they have any kind of moral superiority because they love the civility when they're failing to pull off their wars of extermination. Eat my entire ass, all of it. There's a lot of it. I've gained a little weight from eating too much Milk Duds over the last year and a half or whatever. So there's more booty there for you to eat. Go fuck yourselves if you were in the Pappy leadership. This is what you get. I hope you enjoy this because we will never forgive. We will never forget. And also, it's just so much fun to make fun of these guys because, Jesus, what a bunch of dopes. Brisk,
it's even more fun because they take it seriously and they can't, like, I told Frank, do you really want to go with that as number one? He's like, yeah, he'll fucking hate it. It was great. So I got to give Frank credit. You know, when you can't laugh at yourself, it's very easy for us to poke fun at you. So anyway, yes. Gentlemen, we're at the end of the show. We're at the end of 2021. It has been a long year. We have been here with you guys the entire time. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, and I think I can speak for Frank and for the rest of our crew, thank you guys for joining us again on the Meta Show. You have a ton of different shows you can watch. There are a ton of different places you can get EVE News, you can get entertainment, you can get to hear people bloviating for hours at a time. But you come back here every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Freedom Time to listen to me and Mittens, and you have for this is the start of the third year. Thank you. We love doing this show for you guys. We like having you here. We have a good time with it. We're doing our best to provide you with entertainment, to provide you with some news, tell you what's going on in EVE, give you our perspective on a lot of different stuff. And we're going to keep doing that for as long as we can. But we wouldn't be doing it here if it wasn't for all of you. So from the bottom of my heart, again, thank you for joining us here on the Meta Show. Boss, any final words before we head out?
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Again, thank you to Brisk and to the entire Meta Show team for making this season amazing. It has been a wild year, and who knows, there is chaos under heaven. 2022 might be also, we can hope, a wild year, and we will be here to talk shit and bring you the truth in between the shit talking As we always do. Thank you all so much for watching, and it's been an honor, and can't wait to do it some more.
There you go.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you again. This has been the Meta Show for December 18, 2021, our final Meta Show of 2021. We will see you on January the 8th, tanned, rested, and ready for the next year of EVE Online here on the Imperium News Network. I'm Brisker Ball, joined alongside the Batani, Fountain Frank, and Curious George. We're here with us. Thank you all again for watching, and we'll see you next year. You stay classy, New Eden.